RB Furniture was a furniture store chain that opened in 1950 and closed in 1992. Thank you for your suggestion.
When your furniture needs a change or two, RB Furniture will show you something new. RB Furniture, decorators, RB Furniture, innovators, RB Furniture. Come on, RB Furniture.
Joseph Sine, whose parents were immigrants, grew up in Chicago. His parents, Chaim and Ella, barely managed to support Joe and his younger brother Sam. When his father, a skilled tool and die maker, became ill, Joe became the family's breadwinner, and at the age of 10, he began to work in a pharmacy. He spent the early days of World War II working in the shipyards of Northern California, and then he moved to Los Angeles, where he managed Fanchon and Marco movie theaters. He also supplemented his income rehabilitating homes and selling automobiles. Following World War II, he and his brother Sam pulled together their capital, opening a furniture store. Sine founded RB Furniture with a store on Western Avenue in Los Angeles in 1950. The company expanded slowly and had 10 stores by 1965 when it embarked on a rapid expansion. It would eventually go to the New York Stock Exchange. By the early 1980s, the company entered the Texas market, but due to its poor timing, RB retreated from the depressed market and its earnings suffered from write-offs on leases there. In June of 1983, the RB Furniture store had sales of $97.3 million and net income of $390,000. The company would acquire one store from A.S. Beck Industries. In March of 1984, W&J Sloan Incorporated, the East Coast furniture chain, had been operating at a loss for several years, was sold to RB Industries for several $1 million in cash. Sloan's was actually a subsidiary of City Stores Company of Philadelphia. At that point, RB operated more than 75 furniture stores in the West, including 4 in the Los Angeles area under the Sloan's name that was not part of that Eastern chain. James Nathan, who was at the time president and chief executive of RB, said he had planned to return Sloan's 15 Eastern stores to full service, quality retailers of furniture. He also said he had planned to add another 5 stores to the chain, particularly in the metropolitan New York area. Several of the Washington area stores would be relocated, he had once said. Sloan's had once had 45 stores and operated on both coasts. Prior to closing the largest of its 2 Manhattan stores, it had a clearance center at 163 East 84th Street, and Sloan's by then had closed 13 stores. It operated 9 stores in the metropolitan New York area and 6 in the Washington area. By 1987, RB had sales of $120 million and net earnings of only $2.5 million. The furniture industry sales peaked in 1987. A major recession followed, which resulted in a 4-year downturn and coincided with the industry's longest recession since World War II, which was 3 times longer than the average 16-month downturn the last 4 decades. In 1988, RB Industries had 51 retail furniture showrooms on the West and was experiencing a checkered financial history, as mentioned before. The company owned 8 stores and had long-term leases on most of the other 43 properties, 17 of which were leased from Jossam, a partnership controlled by the Sines, and owns its own Irvine headquarters. Much of the company's land is in California, where RB had 34 stores. Other stores were located in Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Texas. Analysts had said excessive debt, part of it stemming from an inflated purchase price, was a major problem at RB Furniture, which was bought in 1988 for $53 million by a Beverly Hills investment group led by Gary Winnick, a former top lieutenant to junk bond king Michael Milken. By the end of the 1980s and into the early 1990s, the company was reeling from losses due to the devastating impact the recession had on the local retailers, particularly high-end stores depending on affluent white-collar workers. Although retailers, particularly those in the furniture industry, were hurting throughout the nation, the problems were especially acute in Southern California, where the recession had hit the aerospace, real estate, thrift, and insurance industries. The company's results were hurt by losses at Cousins Home Furnishings, a San Diego company partly owned for a time by RB. By 1990, RB operated 46 stores and 5 warehouses in 5 western states, including California. But soon, RB Furniture was closing stores or selling them outright as the company tried to pare down to a profit-making size, but also causing the sales numbers to slide as well as profits. The company didn't specify how much the company owed creditors, but sources pegged it at $18 million. Company debts outweighed assets. RB inaugurated an advertising program touting its furniture's prices as the lowest in town. Under that current setup, RB stores had attached warehouses, but the company had opened a 260,000 square foot warehouse in City of Industry and had planned to centralize much of its distribution. For the year ending in June of 1990, RB reported a loss of $4.7 million on sales of $99.6 million. That contrasted with a profit of $4 million on $103 million in sales the year before. The company's non-California locations had dropped from 16 to 10. By the end of 1991, it was down to 0. The chain now had just 28 outlets, all in Southern California. By 1990, 3 other furniture chains had closed or sought bankruptcy protection in Southern California: W.J. Sloan, Angelus, and Furnishings 2000. RB Furniture suppliers had been aware the company was in trouble for months and had been holding extensive talks with suppliers in an effort to prevent bankruptcy filings. Suppliers drew the line, led by 4 that holds. RB Furniture suppliers had been well aware that the company was in trouble for months. RB had been holding extensive talks with its suppliers in an effort to prevent a bankruptcy filing, but the suppliers drew the line. Led by 4 that held some of the largest overdue bills, the suppliers forced the company into involuntary bankruptcy in order to assure an orderly repayment schedule to creditors. On November 16, 1991, RB Furniture's creditors forced it into filing for involuntary bankruptcy protection. Citing sales declines and tight cash, RB closed its remaining 28 stores in Southern California and laid off nearly 500 employees. However, the company had promised to reopen after Thanksgiving, recalling most of its employees to stage a huge cash-raising sale. By December of 1991, the inventory liquidation sale was held to satisfy its many creditors. By 1992, the company was out of business. So what happened? Analysts note that RB were victims of the leveraged buyout craze of the 1980s. After years of successful operations in the region, it was bought by investment bankers with no previous retailing experience through highly leveraged deals that left the companies with enormous debts. Thank you for watching. If you like this content, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks.